Hi, welcome back to the channel. This week we're taking a look at the update to Pro R from FabFilter, creatively titled Pro R2. So Pro R1, actually as it happens, was my most recently purchased reverb. And essentially I'm using it for everything. And the reason why I like it so much is that it was quite a clean reverb. So I typically go for the Valhalla stuff for character, but when I want something clean, then Pro R1 is essentially my go-to. But that leads me into a bit of a quandary with Pro R2. I don't really see the point. So on screen I have the new features of Pro R2, which some of them I'll explain in a sec, others I'll just skip through. So we have Dolby Atmos support, don't really care. We have two new algorithms, we have Vintage and Plate. As I said, I already have them in Valhalla. If Pro R2 was your only reverb, then that could be quite useful. But if you look at the Valhalla plugins, they're $50 each. They're always that price. And if you compare to Pro R2 when it's not on sale or not as a upgrade discount, it's something ridiculous like 160 euros. Even as an upgrade price for someone who owns most of the plugins, except for the abomination that was Twin 2, I think it's still quite expensive for what this is adding. We have improved GUI, yeah, okay. Improved preset browser, don't really care. More surround sound options here. Mid-side for left and right, yeah, don't really care. Next one, you are able to import impulse responses. And this is probably the one I'm stuck on the most. So it's not a convolution reverb, but you're able to import the impulse responses and then modify them. And I'll explain that in a little bit more when I go through an example, because this one, as I said, has me quite stuck. The next one actually is quite good. Added thickness, ducking, and autogate. So thickness is essentially a compression feature, a one dial compression feature. Just turn that up and it does as it says, it adds a bit of thickness and depth. Ducking also could be quite useful. I tend to use ducking on delays but not really reverb. Improved decay rates, so we can go up to 400%. That could be useful. We have freeze. That could also be useful, but I think it's a bit too static. I've played with it a bit and it doesn't really give the results that I'm after. More interface adjustments, yeah. Output metering, yeah. And then the Atmos stuff again. So out of that, what do we have that's exciting? We have the impulse response import, and we have the vintage and plate modes. So yeah, okay. Would I pay 60 euros to upgrade to those when I already have a majority of that? Not at this stage. I'm not going to go through all of the controls because they're probably much better covered by Dan Worrell in his excellent video. So I recommend go and check that out. What I do want to cover in this video though is showing the impulse response import. So if we take a conventional convolution reverb, I'm going to load up Audio Things Fog Convolver, which I quite like and use quite a bit. It looks like so. Let's just turn off the delay. Let's turn off Pro R2 is already off. Then let's turn off the send. Now this is what we're working with. This reverb is on this crow sound, and it is quite obviously a crow, so you know which one it is. Let's play back this loop so you know what we're listening to. With a delay, it sounds like this. But that's beside the point. So let's look at Fog Convolver. Let's just solo the crow, turn on Fog Convolver, and we can import one of these impulse responses. I'm just going to pick one at random. PCM is 60 plate 1. Let's try that. Plate 2. Okay, quite like that one. So on this, and this isn't really a comparison against Fog Convolver, it per se, even though I'm using it as the demo. It's more so what a conventional convolution reverb is possible of. We can adjust the fade in, we can adjust the fade out, we can adjust the start point, the end point, and then we go into the generator. We have down here the length, density, late reflections, quite a lot of possible customization here. So the point being, essentially from that it isn't a fixed import and then you're stuck with it. It is possible to customize it quite comprehensively. And now if we do the same for Pro R2, let's go down to here, we go down and do import. We have the top up here, we have all the presets. When if we do import IR, let's go to Folk Convolver, Craft Spaces, Samples. It was PCM Plate 4. Let's select that one. Now what this has done, it has analyzed that impulse response and it has re-synthesized it or recreated it here. And that's the point I want to make. And actually I want to clarify that it hasn't just loaded up the sample and applied an EQ to it, etc. It has actually rebuilt it within Pro R2. It has recreated that space. So on paper that sounds quite exciting. That sounds good. But then once we have that, let's just turn that on, turn Folk Convolver off, and play this back. We can then modify it with these parameters here. We have the space, we have the distance, thickness I mentioned earlier. So is this really any more beneficial to having these parameters in Folk Convolver, like I said? Potentially controversially, it's very much marketing speak. I don't really care less about what's going on behind the scenes in this reverb. I don't care how it's doing it. All I want is the final result. We can potentially change that to the algorithms here. So currently it's on modern. We can change it to vintage, maybe to plate. So as a feature, is it valuable enough to again justify the price? Maybe if you didn't have any other reverbs, maybe if this was your only reverb, then potentially it could be worthwhile. But realistically, who only has one reverb these days? However, with all that said, one use I have found for it is if we load up not an impulse response, but typically like a longer, more atmospheric sound. So let's go, I'm just going to pick one at random. It's Alchemy 19. This is from the Glitch Machines pack. Again, this has re-synthesized or recreated this, but you'll notice a little warning down here to say that this doesn't appear to be an impulse response. And that is very true. It's just a long ambient sample. So if we play this one back now, let's turn the mix all the way up. And that has resulted in kind of a breathy kind of sound. So let's unmute that one. Let's play this back and see how this is different now. We can maybe try another one. Again, just one at random. This is Pyramid 47, whatever that means. Don't forget this mix is 100% wet, so it was that little crow sound that we had earlier. So if I put it back to where it was, let's go, around 30 or something mix. That's how it sounds originally, but then we dial all the way up. We have this kind of resonant noise. We can potentially grab all these nodes as well and see what difference they make. Let's maybe record that. I quite like when it was moving down, so let's do right. Play this back. So it is possible to get quite creative with it, but very much abusing it and not using it for its intended purpose. So in summary then, what do I think? Well, Pro R1 was excellent. As I said at the start, I use it all the time. Pro R2 has all those existing features plus additional ones. So I still think it's very much a great reverb and a good purchase. My only point is, do I think the Pro R2 additions are worth the upgrade price, given that most of us already have reverbs that cover these additional features? And at this stage, not for me. But as always, download the demo, you might absolutely fall in love with it, and you might find the new features invaluable. But at the very least, it is fun to play around and abuse these imports, this import function. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.